Hey, so I am here to do a January, February, March, April wrap up. I wanted to do a so far I've read this year, seeing as I haven't done monthly wrap ups, and I'm doing this because I'm hoping that I will get myself back in order because I am a bit overwhelmed right now with all of the books that I'm in the middle of and all of the books that I have yet to read, because there are more books that I want to get, and thus the reader's dilemma. So first things first, I'm going to go through all of the books that I've read so far this year, and if any books have reviews on the channel, I'll link them down below so you can go check out more in depth. So I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, and I read this because I kept seeing ads on the subway and just like all around New York City for the TV show, and I'm like, I should read some Philip K. Dick because I haven't read anything, and I see that he's having a moment. But I did not enjoy this very much, and it made me think, like, I thought that I liked sci-fi, fantasy, like, I guess I don't as much as I thought I did, but essentially, like, there's this detective in there, and he's like trying to figure out who's an android and who's a human, because this is in the future. It's like 2021, and I think it was written in 1968. And so they have to decide who on Earth happen to still be human beings. And then I read Future Home of the Living God by Louise Erdrich, and I loved this book. This is about Cedar, I think that's her name, Cedar Songmaker, and she becomes pregnant at a really awful time, and she is like this fugitive, and she's like trying to get to safety for her and her offspring. And I hope that there's a book that follows this one because it's really a really interesting premise. And then I read Miles, the Autobiography of Miles Davis, and I loved this book. I think that Miles Davis is such a character. Just tell it like it is, and just one of those people that like you expect old people to be, but he was that way throughout his entire life and just didn't take any nonsense and was just such a master of his craft because he stayed with his trumpet. And even there was this story that I think sometimes gets told in it's told wrong, because according to him, he did not say to Nancy Reagan at the White House, what did she do to get invited here besides sleep with the president? I think he said it to another lady at the same dinner who tried to come for him because she was like, what'd you have to do to like make it here? And he was like, beloved, I am a genius. But it's really, really good, and it's really fun to read, especially if you love music, because as you're reading it, you'll be like going through, if you're like me, you'll go on YouTube, or you'll like go on like record sites and try to find all the music that he references. But I really recommend that if anyone's into reading biographies and autobiographies. It's really, really cool. I also read The Wife Between Us by two authors, Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen, and I read this on a plane because I needed a thriller and something that was going to be a page turner, and this was really interesting, and it was really fascinating because right after I read it, in the news, there was that whole scandal that happened with one of the White House staffers and him starting to date, who was the communication lady? Hope Hicks. And so I had this in the background of my mind and then that for context. But it's about this woman, and she is separating from her husband, and as you're reading it, she's also sort of stalking her husband because her ex-husband, and it's made to seem as if she's like, crazy and no one really knows, but then as it progresses, you like come to find out that there were a lot of, I'm sorry if I'm gonna put spoilers somewhere, but then there's like another female character that's also telling the story, and then the truth comes out. And for people who probably read a lot of books like this, you already know everything that's gonna happen. But for me, it was really thrilling because I was like, what? That was who? And just, it got me. I also read A State of Freedom by Neil Mukherjee. I keep trying to say his name right because I feel like I'm really bad at either remembering names or pronouncing names, and so that's why I take my time to, you know, pronounce or to enunciate each syllable. And then of course there's a review, so I'll link that below. Smoketown by Mark Whitaker. This is nonfiction. It is the history of the untold Black Renaissance in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the USA. I have an interview with Mark Whitaker on the channel, so you can definitely check that one out. I also read Pimp by Iceberg Slim, and I've already said that this was a very devastating read. It was sort of like just insightful, and I'm grateful that I read it. This is gonna be one long video because my camera is about to cut off, and so yeah. I also read The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin, and this book was very interesting. I know I keep saying interesting for everything, but it's these four siblings who find out the date of their death when they're young kids. They like go to this psychic who is telling people the date of their death if they so want to know, because they want to, like, why would you want to know that? I mean, I guess, actually I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole, but like, they find out, and obviously it sticks with them. And the whole book is going through each of their lives in the year of the date death. And they all have their own like character traits, and like if they're really fearless or if they are cautious about everything, if they are defensive about everything, and just if they are so curious about creating wonder in the world. And I did really enjoy how Benjamin created the characters. I really loved the second story because I love magical, wonderful, like awe-inspiring narratives. And I thought that she really made me believe in the magic that was on these pages. But I do think that this is a really cool story, and it's not incredibly dark, and there were some moments where I wish that there was more drawn from it, like the psychic story. It just felt very like tacked on at a certain point, but it was a fun read nonetheless. And then I read The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. This was, I feel like I don't read a lot of romance novels, and I feel like I should do that more. And I feel like this is also sort of erotica. And if anyone has read this and I'm wrong, please let me know. Because there's a lot of sex that was going on in here. Like every other page, the characters were getting down, and I was like, can we talk about something else? Can we, like, you know, I don't know. I was being real old-fashioned. And they were like crazy and erotic, and I was like, you obviously like each other. Like, what is going on in your head so much that you can't get out of it? Like, it was just so annoying because they kept saying the same thing over and over again. And I guess me as the reader was just sort of like, people like. I read Halsey Street by Naima Coster, and I did not like this book at all. Oh my gosh. It was so depressing, and it's the story of, actually, let me tell you what The Wedding Date was about too. I didn't even say that. These two people get stuck in an elevator, and they end up going to the guy's friend's wedding, and it was just supposed to be that one day. And then they just end up screwing for the rest of the book and questioning if they were meant to be. Like, I was just like, really? Sorry. Back to Halsey Street, which I did not like. So this character leaves Pittsburgh and goes back home to Brooklyn because her dad needs her by his side. and she is a piece of work. She, her name is Penelope, and I mean, the girl just does not make good decisions. She doesn't move in with her father. She goes and like rents an apartment or like an attic in someone's house, a family, like a married couple and their daughter. She decides that she's going to sleep with the husband of her landlord. And then, first of all, rent in New York is very, very expensive. So I was like a bit annoyed by the fact that she did not just move in with her father. Like, if my parents lived in New York, I would not be having my own apartment. I would be living with them. It's bananas. Like, what are you doing? And then, why would you make the decision to commit adultery? Like, it just sounds like you're gonna hurt people. I just don't get it. And so after that, I was like, she's gonna redeem herself. Like, this is gonna get better. It doesn't. And she's trying to repair she's sort of trying to repair her relationship with her parents, but not really. Like, I guess us as the reader want them to repair their relationships before it's too late. And her mom is down in the DR trying to live her life because she didn't like living in Brooklyn. And it's a mess. It's like, she writes well, but the content and the story is just so heartbreaking and like, oh my God. But I also read The Power by Naomi Alderman, and I love this book. Every single person that has asked me recently, like, to recommend a book or like what's a really great book that I've read recently, this is the one that I talk about. And I also read, where is it? Oh, that's why. I read an audiobook, The Feminine Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer. And I think that The Power and The Feminine Persuasion really complement each other in that respect, because it's about questioning sisterhood and questioning power dynamics. And the characters are pretty great vehicles for that. The other audiobooks that I read this year are Tiffany Haddish, The Last Black Unicorn. And that one was really funny to listen to. She does these like impersonations of the characters that she's trying to like talk about, and all of them sound the same. And so that was like really funny. So like listening to her read it wasn't so much like the content that she was doing, but it was like, you know how certain people just have like funny voices, and like even if they're saying something serious, you're still sort of like waiting for the punchline. I feel that way about like Chris Tucker or someone, but so that one was cool. I probably should have read it, the physical copy, instead of the audiobook, but it was good nonetheless. And then I also read audiobook of Charlemagne the God's Black Privilege, and that one was really cool. It was sort of like a self-help book, and he was talking about his experiences as a creative radio DJ host, I don't know, entrepreneur, or just someone trying to leave Monks County in South Carolina, and then his plight trying to make it through radio. And then, recently, I read Welcome to Lagos by Chibundu Onuzo. And forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But this book was so much fun. It was funny. It was profound. And it is the story of these this like eccentric group of people that end up abandoning, or not all of them abandoning, but a lot of them are fleeing this town that is going through like civil unrest, and they're trying to travel to Lagos. So like there's the officer Chike, who is like abandoning his role in the army. There's Oma, who is leaving her abusive husband. There's Fine Boy, who is an aspiring radio DJ personality, and some other characters that really make them such a comical group. And when they travel to Lagos, they find an abandoned house that they bunker in and end up running into the Minister of Education, who was like embezzling funds from, for the educational department. And so they decide what they're gonna do with this money and how they'll disperse it. And it is so unexpected. It's sort of this very interesting Naija Robin Hood. I really enjoyed it so much, and I can't wait to like talk to more people about it. I don't know if I'll do a review of it, but I just finished it, so I might. But it's really, really good. Dang, I'm at like 25 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and show y'all the books I'm in the middle of right now. I'm gonna have to like speed this up because I'm impressed at how long I've been talking. So every morning I've been reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and I'm about halfway through it. I am also currently reading Paper Sons by Dixon Lam, and this is a memoir about Dixon Lam, a Chinese American in the Bay Area, and he's going from his days as sort of like a misfit teenager to becoming a teacher. And there's a really touching story in the beginning about one of his students who is the impetus for what happens to his student is the impetus for him writing these stories. And it really reads like a mosaic because he will intertwine his experiences through childhood and as a teacher with the experiences of his friends and the experiences of his students. And I think that's such a really intricate way of telling his story. And then it's like there's such a tenderness about him that I'm so impressed by. So I'm really, really enjoying this book. Sorry, I need water. I forgot. I read Frankenstein in Baghdad by Ahmed Sadawi. And this is the story of this really eccentric character named Hadi. And he takes the body parts that are strewn all around U.S.-occupied Baghdad and then stitches them together to make one complete corpse, which he's going to put on the steps of the government in his own act of political activism or protest. And after he makes this body, the body goes missing, and the body is occupied by the ghost of this woman's missing son, and this ghost occupying occupying the what's-its-name is also wreaking havoc on the city, and in an interesting way because he's now taking body parts, the good body parts from good people. And I really enjoyed the thoughts on the different types of justice. Like there's street justice, there's divine justice, and there's legal justice. I think that Hadi is one of my favorite characters of the year. And so, yeah, Frankenstein in Baghdad. So, Sound and Fury, The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. I started this because I've had it on my shelf, and then I don't know why it was calling to me, but I think it was because I was really trying to explore, and I became pretty curious about time and timing of things. And so that's what this one is about, even though it's not told linearly. And the character that it's being told through is sort of not all there, and is telling it from being present in different realities. So it's really trippy. And then I've also been reading Videocracy by Kevin Alaka, and he is the head of culture and trends at YouTube. This one's really interesting too, in that he's trying to go through how YouTube trends work, and you can't really do it because we as consumers are so fickle, and we really just watch things based off of like the personalities behind the or in front of the camera, and behind the camera, because like he tells this really fun story about the guy who saw the double rainbow. And this, similar to Miles, I'm just constantly on YouTube as I'm reading it because I'm like, you know, trying to cross-reference. And it's really fun because you're like looking at a bunch of videos that you may not have seen before. And so it's taken me a while because I'm doing that. I'm like reading and researching, reading and referencing, and just it's cool. I'm only about a third of the way through, so it's probably going to take me like another month or so to really get through that. And I need to get through all of that because look at all the books that I have yet to start reading. So I lost my memory card, but I was going to show y'all what I have on deck. And this is why I need to get myself in order because my TBR is overwhelming me. I did start the first chapter of this and it was très génial. I need to say something other than interesting. But no, it was good. And she was just talking about reconciling this idea that all black women are the angry black woman trope, and instead calling it eloquent rage, which I really enjoyed. And then there's Creative Quest by Questlove, in which she tells the stories of, or their stories are contributed from like different artists that are out there, and just sort of like the journey to being our most creative selves. And then Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I started this one, but then I was like traveling, and this is not the kind of book that you travel with. And I also want to like make sure that I'm just sort of like not involved in anything else, because I do want to read this through and through. And I've heard such great things about it. So I'm excited to sit in which these fantastic characters fight for the magic of their land. And then my friend recommended this book, Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World by Haruki Murakami. And I have not read a Murakami book in a really long time. And so this should be really fun. Yeah. And then I picked up How to Write an Autobiographical Novel by Alexander Chee, which I'm so looking forward to because I've read his essays. And this sounds so promising, especially with all of the rave reviews that it's been getting. And so because I have taken up so much of your time, I'm just breezing through these. So I also need to read Mama Day by Gloria Naylor, and I saw this on Freeform Ladies channel during the Read So Lit challenge. And she was saying how this is the perfect read with Bailey's Cafe, and I read Bailey's Cafe like 4 years ago. So if I need to, I will read Bailey's Cafe again because I loved it so much. And so yeah, there's some magical realism in this one, so that's what I'm really, really excited about. And then also The Beauty That Remains by Ashley Woodfolk. I picked this up when it first came out because I was really excited to hear and read all of these reviews about it. And it's said to be these characters that are contemplating grief, and they're like teenagers / young adults. And it's supposed to be really like lovely and beautiful. And that is about it. As you can see, I'm very overwhelmed with all of the books that I need to get through before I get any more books on my shelf. I need to be a responsible reader. I need to take advantage of the library more, so that way I read the books and I return them. I also am just trying to wrap my head around all of the timing of everything, like, and to get y'all some videos. Also, if there are any tags out there in BookTube land that you would like to see me do, I would love it if you would let me know in the comments down below. I haven't been tagged in any, I don't think, so you can let me know in the comments which ones you think that I should do, or that you would like to see me do, and I'd be glad to do a couple of them, 1 or 2, maybe more, we'll see. Yeah, I have talked so much. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this long-ass video. I appreciate you with all my heart. Until next time, remember to read or be read, and I'll be back with another review and maybe a tag. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.